Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about heme synthesis. So heme is an iron porphyrin compound. Is an iron porphyrin compound. And these porphyrins are complex structures consist of 4 pyrrole rings, that is tetrapyrrole. Tetrapyrrole ring structure in porphyrin. These tetrapyrroles are united by methane bridges or methylidine bridges. Methane or methylidine bridges. Heme is an iron porphyrin compound and these porphyrins are complex structures consist of 4 pyrrole rings, that is tetrapyrrole. These are united by methane bridges or methylidine bridges. So let's see, first we will see the synthesis of porphyrins. Biosynthesis of porphyrins. The porphyrins are synthesized partly in the mitochondria and partly in cytosol of aerobic cells. Partly in mitochondria and partly in cytosol of aerobic cells like developing erythrocytes and hepatic cells. So let's see the stages of biosynthesis. Mainly 3 stages. Stage 1 is the synthesis of delta amino levulinic acid which occurs in mitochondria. So stage 1 occurs in mitochondria and it is the synthesis of delta amino levulinic acid. Delta amino levulinic acid. That is the stage 1. Coming to stage 2, it takes place in cytosol. It occurs in cytosol and it is the synthesis of coproporphyrinogen 3 and coproporphyrinogen 1. Synthesis of coproporphyrinogen 3, that is the major series, and coproporphyrinogen 1, that is the minor series. Then coming to stage 3, this is also mitochondrial. And stage 3 is the synthesis of protoporphyrin 9. Protoporphyrin 9. This occurs in mitochondria. So first we will say stage 1, that is synthesis of delta amino levulinic acid, that is intramitochondrial. Synthesis of delta amino levulinic acid. So first step is succinyl CoA condenses with glycine. Condenses with glycine to form alpha amino beta keto adipic acid. Alpha amino beta keto adipic acid. The enzyme catalyzing the reaction is delta amino levulinic acid synthase. Delta amino levulinic acid synthase. It requires B6 phosphate or pyridoxal phosphate as the coenzyme and it requires Mg++. Here CoA SH is released. So this is the first step in the biosynthesis of porphyrin or heme. Here the biosynthesis begins with the condensation of this succinyl CoA. Succinyl CoA means it is an intermediate in TCA cycle. So condensation of succinyl CoA and glycine and it forms alpha amino beta keto adipic acid. The reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme alpha amino levulinic acid synthase. Then this alpha amino beta keto adipic acid then undergoes decarboxylation it undergo decarboxylation to produce delta amino levulinic acid. It produces delta amino levulinic acid. So this alpha amino beta keto adipic acid undergo decarboxylation to produce delta amino levulinic acid. So both the reactions are catalyzed by the same enzyme, that is delta amino levulinic acid synthase. This enzyme requires B6-phosphate and Mg++ as coenzyme. In liver cells, this synthesis occurs in mitochondria. Pantothenic acid is also required at this stage, and it is being a constant of this CoA SH. Pantothenic acid is also required at this stage, being a constituent of CoA SH. That is the first step. Coming to the mechanism of action, this glycine first combines with enzyme B6 complex. Glycine first combines with the enzyme B6 complex. Enzyme B6 complex, and it forms enzyme bound Schiff base. Enzyme bound Schiff base. This enzyme bound Schiff base then condenses with this succinyl-CoA. Enzyme bound Schiff base then condenses with the succinyl-CoA to form a ternary complex. This ternary complex contains alpha amino beta keto adipic acid, alpha amino beta keto adipic acid, then B6-phosphate plus enzyme. B6-phosphate plus enzyme. So glycine first combines with this enzyme B6 complex to form enzyme bound Schiff base. This enzyme bound Schiff base then reacts with or condenses with the succinyl-CoA to form a ternary complex. A ternary complex that contains alpha amino beta keto adipic acid, B6-phosphate and enzyme. Here CoA SH is removed. CoA SH is removed. This alpha amino beta keto adipic acid then loses a molecule of carbon dioxide, liberating delta amino levulinic acid in free form from the complex. That is the mechanism of action. Coming to next step, here the delta amino levulinic acid synthase enzyme, we will see the regulation of this enzyme. Regulation of delta amino levulinic acid. Regulation of this enzyme delta amino levulinic acid synthase. This enzyme is very unstable and low in concentration in tissues. It is the main rate limiting enzyme in the synthetic pathway. Main rate limiting enzyme. Main rate limiting enzyme in the synthetic pathway. Many erythropoietic substances, including hormones, stimulate heme synthesis by inducing the production of the enzyme. Many hormones stimulate heme synthesis by inducing the production of this enzyme. Then end product heme inhibits the enzyme by feedback inhibition. End product heme inhibits the enzyme. This is by feedback inhibition. Then heme also causes a repression of the synthesis of enzyme. Heme also causes repression of the synthesis of enzyme, that is endpoint repression. Endpoint repression. Endpoint repression, that is the regulation of this delta amino levulinic acid synthase enzyme. That is the first stage. Coming to second stage, that is the synthesis of coproporphyrinogen 3 and 1. So this first stage, that is mitochondrial. So second stage is cytosolic. So first step is in this Stage 2, first step is formation of porphobilinogen. Formation of porphobilinogen. So this delta amino levulinic acid comes out of mitochondria. So it is formed in the mitochondria, so it has to enters into the cytosol for further reaction. So this delta amino levulinic acid comes out of mitochondria into the cytosol. Then this 2 molecules of delta amino levulinic acid condenses further to form a molecule of porphobilinogen. 2 molecules of delta amino levulinic acid condenses and it forms this porphobilinogen. 2 molecules condenses to form porphobilinogen. Porphobilinogen. This is catalyzed by the enzyme delta amino levulinic acid dehydratase. Delta amino levulinic acid dehydratase. This is zinc containing enzyme and it requires Cu++. So formation, next step is formation of porphobilinogen. That is delta amino levulinic acid comes out of the mitochondria into the cytosol for further reaction. Here 2 molecules of delta amino levulinic acid condenses to form a molecule of porphobilinogen, which is the precursor of pyrrole rings. Porphobilinogen is the precursor of pyrrole ring. It is the precursor of pyrrole ring. This reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme delta amino levulinic acid dehydratase. It is a zinc containing enzyme and it requires Cu++ as a cofactor. Coming to regulation of the enzyme, this is a second rate limiting enzyme, that is delta amino levulinic acid dehydratase is a second rate limiting enzyme which is inhibited by feedback inhibition by end product heme. This is also inhibited by feedback inhibition by end product heme. That is the formation of porphobilinogen. So next step is formation of uroporphyrinogen 1 and 3. Formation of uroporphyrinogen 1 and 3. So let's see the reaction. Uroporphyrinogen, the structure of uroporphyrinogen is, if these are the pyrrole rings, 1, 2, 3, 4 pyrrole rings. Here it is AP, AP. So in presence of a porphobilinogen deaminase, presence of enzyme deaminase, this porphobilinogen, 4 molecules of porphobilinogen condenses. 4 molecules of porphobilinogen condenses, losing 4 molecules of ammonia and forms uroporphyrinogen 1. So by the enzyme deaminase, this porphobilinogen, 4 molecules of porphobilinogen, it condenses 4 molecules of porphobilinogen condenses by the enzyme deaminase and it forms this uroporphyrinogen 1. Here in the formation of uroporphyrinogen 1, dipyrroles and tetrapyrroles may be formed as intermediates. For first it will convert to dipyrrole. It form dipyrrole, then form tetrapyrrole. These are intermediates. Then it is converted to uroporphyrinogen 1. First one is dipyrrole, then second is tetrapyrrole, then converts to uroporphyrinogen 1. Uroporphyrinogen 1. So in the formation of uroporphyrinogen, the dipyroles and tetrapyroles are formed as intermediates. This oxidation of uroporphyrinogen 1 produces uroporphyrin 1. Oxidation of this uroporphyrinogen and it produces uroporphyrin 1. Uroporphyrin 1. Oxidation of uroporphyrinogen, it produces uroporphyrin 1 and it is excreted in urine in small quantities normally. This uroporphyrin 1 is excreted in urine in small amounts normally. So, that is the formation of uroporphyrinogen 1. Second step is formation of uroporphyrinogen 3 from porphobilinogen. So, action of an enzyme isomerase together with this deaminase. Isomerase and deaminase. Isomerase and deaminase. Isomerase and deaminase. There will be formation of uroporphyrinogen 3. Uroporphyrinogen 3. Here in fourth pyrrole ring, this is the fourth pyrrole ring. The difference between this uroporphyrinogen 1 and 3 is here in the fourth pyrrole ring. The fourth pyrrole ring. In the fourth pyrrole ring, the acetic acid and propionic acid side chains are reversed. Here it will be AP. Acetic acid and this propionic acid side chains are reversed in this uroporphyrinogen 3. That is the difference between 1 and 3. That is uroporphyrinogen 1 and 3. Then this oxidation of uroporphyrinogen 3 produces uroporphyrin 3. Oxidation of uroporphyrinogen 3, it produces uroporphyrin 3. And this is excreted in urine in normal healthy individuals. That is the formation of uroporphyrinogen 1 and uroporphyrinogen 3 from porphobilinogen. Third step is formation of coproporphyrinogen 1 and 3. Formation of coproporphyrinogen 1 and 3. So, next step is from uroporphyrinogen 1 decarboxylation. Decarboxylation catalyzed by the enzyme uroporphyrinogen decarboxylase. Uroporphyrinogen decarboxylase. It forms coproporphyrinogen 1. This is a minor series. Coproporphyrinogen 1. This is by decarboxylation, that is 4 molecules of carbon dioxide. 4 molecules of carbon dioxide is liberated. So, decarboxylation catalyzed by the enzyme uroporphyrinogen decarboxylase. This uroporphyrinogen 1 is converted to coproporphyrinogen 1. Similarly, in the case of uroporphyrinogen 3, here also decarboxylation and it produces this coproporphyrinogen 3. This is the major series. Coproporphyrinogen 3. So, this oxidations of coproporphyrin 1 and 3 produces coproporphyrin 1 and 3. Oxidations of coproporphyrinogen 1. It produces coproporphyrin 1. Oxidation of coproporphyrinogen 3 produces coproporphyrin 3. So, oxidation, it produces coproporphyrin 1 and it is excreted. Here in the case of coproporphyrinogen 3, it is oxidized to coproporphyrin 1, porphyrin 3. coproporphyrin 3, and these are excreted. This coproporphyrinogen 1 of minor series, this is a minor series, this coproporphyrinogen 1 is excreted without being utilized in the body. So traces of coproporphyrin 3 and coproporphyrinogen 3 are excreted in small amounts in normal persons. This most of the coproporphyrinogen 3 is converted to protoporphyrin 9 in human beings. Most of the coproporphyrinogen 3 is converted to protoporphyrin 9. That is the next step. We will see the step, that is formation of protoporphyrin 9. Formation of protoporphyrin 9 from this coproporphyrinogen 3. So for that reaction takes place in mitochondria, again in mitochondria. So up to this reaction it is cytosol. So from the cytosol, coproporphyrinogen 3 has to enters into the mitochondria for further reaction. So let's see the reaction. Here by oxidation 3O2, here water molecules, 2 molecules of water molecules, 2 molecules of water are released, then 2 carbon dioxide are released. Here by the enzyme oxidative decarboxylase system with flavins, oxidative decarboxylase system with flavins, this coproporphyrinogen, it is converted to protoporphyrinogen 9. Protoporphyrinogen 9. That is the formation of protoporphyrinogen. So this coproporphyrinogen 3 enters mitochondria for further reaction. An oxidative decarboxylase system containing flavins as coenzyme. This oxidative decarboxylase system contains flavin as the coenzyme. This converts coproporphyrinogen 3 to protoporphyrinogen 9. Then this protoporphyrinogen 9 is converted to protoporphyrin 9 by another oxidase system. It is converted to protoporphyrin 9. Protoporphyrin 9 by another oxidase system. So this protoporphyrinogen 9, it is converted to protoporphyrin 9 by protoporphyrinogen oxidase. Protoporphyrinogen oxidase. By oxidase it is converted to protoporphyrin 9. It requires molecular oxygen. And oxygen. 6H is removed. Protoporphyrin 9. So this protoporphyrin 9 then converted to protoporphyrinogen 9 converted to protoporphyrin 9 by another oxidase system, that is protoporphyrinogen oxidase. This step requires the presence of molecular oxygen. So though the protoporphyrin is derived from type 3, that is major series, it is called as protoporphyrin 9 because it is discovered in the 9th experiment. 9 means it is discovered in the 9th experiment. The formation of protoporphyrin 9 from the coproporphyrinogen 3 is an aerobic process and requires the presence of molecular oxygen. So this is the formation of these porphyrins. So we got protoporphyrin 9. So next is the synthesis of or formation of heme and hemoproteins, that is intramitochondrial, that take place in mitochondria. So let's see the reactions. formation of heme. So heme is iron porphyrin compound. Iron porphyrin compound. So insertion of an atom of iron into the central position of protoporphyrin ion. Insertion of iron to the central position of this protoporphyrin ion. It is catalyzed by the enzyme heme synthase or ferrochelatase. So we got this protoporphyrin ion, protoporphyrin ion. So insertion of an ion into the center portion of this protoporphyrin ion. It is catalyzed by heme synthase or ferrochelatase. It is otherwise called as ferrochelatase and it forms heme. This ion is from transferrin, also called as siderophilin. It is from transferrin, also called as siderophilin. So that is the formation of heme. So for optimal function of the enzyme heme synthase or ferrochelatase, it requires anaerobiosis and some reducing agents such as glutathione. So for optimal function of the enzyme, it requires anaerobiosis and reducing agents such as glutathione. So heme is produced. The heme produced is then coupled with the various proteins and thus form the conjugated proteins. Heme produced can be coupled with the various proteins and they form conjugated proteins such as hemoglobin, myoglobin, then cytochrome C, then enzymes like catalases, peroxidases, etc. This heme is then coupled with the various proteins and forms conjugated proteins like hemoglobin, myoglobin, cytochrome C, catalases and peroxidases. This reaction occurs in mitochondria. So that is the formation of heme. Coming to the regulation of heme synthesis. Regulatory influences and effects of inhibitors. First one is effect of oxygen. So what will be the effect of oxygen in heme synthesis? This effect of oxygen on heme synthesis in vivo and in vitro. In vivo, it is this heme synthesis is in vivo. Heme synthesis is stimulated by low oxygen tension. That is living at high altitudes. So heme synthesis stimulates. Then in vitro conversion of porphobilinogen to uroporphyrinogen and protoporphyrin to heme are both inhibited by this oxygen. Conversion of porphobilinogen to uroporphyrinogen and then protoporphyrin to heme. These are inhibited by oxygen. But oxygen is required for the decarboxylation of coproporphyrinogen and oxidation of protoporphyrinogen. This oxygen is required for the decarboxylation of coproporphyrinogen and oxidation of protoporphyrinogen. That is the effect of oxygen. Next one is enzyme inhibition. Enzymes which catalyze the synthesis and utilization of this delta aminolevulinic acid are important sites of regulation. Enzymes which catalyze the synthesis and utilization of delta aminolevulinic acid. These are important sites of regulation. The end product of the metabolic sequence is heme. It inhibits the activity of the enzyme. That is feedback inhibition. Next one is effect of drugs. Many compounds of diverse structures, that is certain insecticides, carcinogens and others, when administered to human beings, it can result in marked increase in the hepatic delta aminolevulinic acid synthase enzyme. Delta aminolevulinic acid synthase. These drugs can, when administered to these human beings, it can result in increase in the delta aminolevulinic acid synthase enzyme. It leads to increased porphyrins. It leads to increased porphyrin synthesis. So most of these drugs are metabolized by the system in the liver that utilizes a specific cytochrome called cytochrome P450. During metabolism of the drugs by this cytochrome P450, consumption of heme by cytochrome P450 is generally increased. Consumption of heme by cytochrome P450 is increased, which in turn diminishes the cellular concentration of heme. It diminishes cellular concentration of heme and it leads to de-repression of the enzyme delta aminolevulinic acid with a corresponding increase in the rate of heme synthesis. That is the effects of drugs. Coming to other factors, first one is lead. Lead produces abnormalities in porphyrin metabolism. It inhibits the enzymes delta aminolevulinic acid synthase, delta aminolevulinic acid dehydratase and heme synthase. So this produces abnormalities in porphyrin metabolism. It inhibits the enzymes delta aminolevulinic acid synthase, delta aminolevulinic acid dehydratase and heme synthase. That is the effect of lead. Next one is glucose. Glucose can prevent induction of delta aminolevulinic acid. It can prevent the induction of delta aminolevulinic acid. Then next one is hypoxia. Hypoxia increases the activity of enzyme delta aminolevulinic acid synthase. It increases the activity of delta aminolevulinic acid synthase in erythropoietic tissues. That is the action of hypoxia. Then coming to steroids. Steroids play a role in the drug-mediated de-repression of the delta aminolevulinic acid synthase in vivo. Steroids play a role in the drug-mediated de-repression of delta aminolevulinic acid synthase in vivo. Then iron. In chelated form, this iron exerts a synergetic effect on induction of delta aminolevulinic acid synthase in chelated form. In chelated form, this iron exerts a synergetic effect on induction of delta aminolevulinic acid synthase. Next one is hematin. The administration of hematin in vivo can prevent the drug-mediated de-repression of delta aminolevulinic acid synthase. That is the regulation. That is the synthesis of heme. Next, we will see the synthesis of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin synthesis. Coming to hemoglobin synthesis, 3 components are required. 3 components. First one is protoporphyrin IX. Protoporphyrin IX. Then globin. Then iron. These are the precursors of or components of this hemoglobin. This globin is produced by usual mechanism of protein synthesis. So in addition to the actual constituents of this hemoglobin, certain vitamins and other factors are also required for hemoglobin synthesis. That is pantothenic acid. Pantothenic acid. This pantothenic acid is necessary for the synthesis of CoA-SH, that is required for the substrate succinyl-CoA. That is in the first step. Succinyl-CoA condenses with this glycine to form alpha amino beta ketoadipic acid. So this pantothenic acid required as a for the synthesis of CoA-SH. It is required for the substrate succinyl-CoA. Then pyridoxal phosphate or B6-phosphate. It is required as a coenzyme for delta amino levulinic acid synthase. Then Cu++. Cu++ as a cofactor with delta amino levulinic acid dehydratase. Then vitamin C or ascorbic acid. It helps in the absorption of iron from the gut and converts Fe3+ to Fe2+. Then vitamin C also helps in mobilization of iron from ferritin. Then next one is vitamin B12 and folic acid. Vitamin B12 and folic acid. These are required indirectly for the rapid rate of cell growth and division. These are occurring during erythropoiesis and results in a rapid rate of nucleic acid synthesis which requires B12 and folic acid. This is to ensure adequate supply of fomate for purine synthesis. That is vitamin B12 and this folic acid. Then coming next one is intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor. These are for vitamin B12 absorption. Next one is erythropoietin. Erythropoietin. This erythropoietin stimulates production, maturation and release of red blood cells from the blood forming tissues. It stimulates production, maturation and release of red blood cells from the blood forming tissues. These are the components. Then the synthesis of hemoglobin proceeds concurrently with the maturation of erythrocytes. With the maturation of these erythrocytes. So hemoglobin synthesis proceeds concurrently with the maturation of erythrocytes. The primitive red cells contain free porphyrins. Primitive red cells contain free porphyrins rather than hemoglobin. These primitive red cells contain free porphyrins rather than hemoglobin. As the red cells mature, the content of free porphyrin decreases and hemoglobin increases. Okay, as the red cells mature, content of porphyrin decreases and hemoglobin increases. These biochemical changes are correlated with the alterations in the staining properties of the cells. Heme stimulate the synthesis of globin on the ribosomal level. Heme stimulate the synthesis of globin on the ribosomal level. In an adult human of 70 kg body weight, approximately 6.25 gram of hemoglobin. 6.25 gram of hemoglobin, that is about 90 mg per kg. 90 mg per kg is synthesized and is degraded per day, corresponding to approximately 300 milligram of porphyrin. It is corresponding to 300 mg of porphyrin. These porphyrin rings are about 4% by weight of this hemoglobin molecule. Porphyrin rings are about 4% by weight of this hemoglobin molecule. So this is about the synthesis of porphyrin, synthesis of heme and hemoglobin synthesis. So this is about today's topic. This is today's topic. Thank you for watching.